How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado. And listen, over the last couple years, Denver's gotten its fair share of bad press. And there are people questioning, should I move there? Should Denver still be my spot? Well, I'm here to talk about the biggest reasons people are still moving to the Denver metro area here in Colorado. And we're starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everton. Listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons, moving to or around the Denver metro area, or the Front Range for that matter, this is the channel for you. So that subscribe button and notification icon you see on your screen, make sure you click on that as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And as much as I try to be a little informative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of the state's most talented realtors. And we're helping people move here each and every day. So the number and email you see, know that I am always the person answering your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails. There, winning if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is, what are some of the biggest reasons people keep moving to the Denver metro area? All right, so obviously we're going to talk about the Rocky Mountains and getting outdoors and all of the good things that come with Denver, Colorado, but we're going to start with the job market here in Denver, because at the end of the day, it is really the job market that drove all of Denver's growth, and it still remains one of our strongest assets. So the Denver job market remains stronger than the national average. Our unemployment rate sat at around 3.6% as of middle of the year, summer of 2024, and has remained below the national average year upon year upon year. And it's not just the job market itself and that stability of a lower unemployment rate, it's also the number of different companies and industries that we rely on here in Denver. So there was a period of time where if you made a really good living, odds are you were in oil and gas, or maybe you were in some type of financial institution. Now Denver relies, and the metro area for that matter, relies on a number of different components and a number of different industries. So the metro area, the Front Range to some extent, relies a ton on tech, healthcare, education, finance. Oil and gas still plays a role in that. And obviously we'll also get into entrepreneurship and how small business has really impacted the Denver landscape when it comes to employment. So as recent as 2023, Denver outpaced the national average for GDP, growing 3.8%. Now, can the job market be competitive? Can the higher paid jobs be extremely competitive? Absolutely. Again, I'll always say, point to a large city where a lot of people want to live, where the job market for higher paying jobs isn't competitive, and heck, I'll move there with you. And among the biggest factors that has really built this momentum is the growth of the tech industry within not just Denver, but the Front Range. So you have Denver, and just south of us is Greenwood Village, where the Denver Tech Center is founded, and that was one of our bigger tech centers. Well, now the tech center really runs from the tech center all the way up north. Broomfield has a huge area for tech, all the way up into Fort Collins, so 2 hours north of Denver, massive tech boom. Boulder, home of Google, one of Google's headquarters up in Boulder. So when you talk about tech in Colorado, it is growing and growing and growing, and not just in one segment. It is taking up all of the Front Range. From just 2020 to 2024, tech positions and job opportunities grew by 30% in just 4 years. It has played a massive role in the economy of the Denver metro area. And again, I keep emphasizing the Front Range because this stretches all the way south to Colorado Springs, all the way north to Fort Collins, with plenty in between. And you can't talk about the job market in Colorado and certainly in Denver without talking about entrepreneurship, without talking about small businesses. Denver routinely ranks in the top 10 nationally for small businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit. We had over 600 companies open in Colorado over the last year, and it has long played a role over the last 5, 10, 15 years, really growing momentum where more and more companies are coming to Colorado and beginning those operations here, both for tax benefits, certain incentives and credits they're receiving. That opportunity is noticed, and it's bringing a lot of companies here to get started. Now, in some of the things I'm going to talk about, a lot of this is going to focus on right there in the heart of Denver, but we're also talking about the metro area. We're talking about getting out into the suburbs, all the way out Aurora to our east, getting out to a place like Golden and Morrison to the west, north, south, all the directions covering them. So another major factor that is bringing people to the Denver metro area is the variety of housing options, the ability to live close to the city, to live in one of the big apartment buildings downtown, to be closer areas like the Highlands, Sloan's Lake, these neighborhoods where you can be downtown in 10 minutes, but you're a little more suburban, urban, if you will. And then the beautiful thing, and something that I think a lot of people really find surprising about Denver, is how quickly you can get into the suburbs, how you can leave downtown and 15 to 20 minutes later, you don't feel like you're in the city at all. That variety of housing options and neighborhoods is really what draws people to Denver. Not necessarily the city itself, but what it contains within a reasonable radius of 10 to 15 to maybe 20 miles. And people like the fact that you have a variety of price points. Is affordability in Denver a huge challenge? Absolutely it is. That has been a growing challenge for several years and really hit its peak during the pandemic. But you can still find a decent condo, a decent townhome for $300,000. And if you want to buy anything in between, but if you want to buy some multi-million-dollar monstrosity, it might not be a monstrosity anymore for a few $1,000,000, but that's an option as well. And the great thing is, I'm here to help for all of them. And for renters, there was a period of time where rents were out of control in Denver, and there is still an argument to be made that they are, but we're finding more and more opportunities in which I've talked to a lot of people who are moving here, and while I cannot necessarily help them find a rental, that's not something I've been able to assist with yet, we've had great conversations about different areas, and they have found apartments that find their needs at a budget they can afford that has enabled them to move here. So while people may say it's not affordable, I think that is largely based on perspective. And if you're looking hard enough, you're going to find, whether you are renting or buying, an option that's going to suit you. Tying into that, there's a lot of noise about crime in Denver. And listen, won't deny it. Crime rates in Denver have been, are currently out of control, especially when it came to car crimes, whether it's break-ins, car thefts. Violent crimes were on the rise. There are certain areas of town that people, once flocked to and now tend to, stay away from, or we hope they get back to being what they once were. But crime in Denver, nationally as well, but we'll get to that later, but in Denver, crime is on the decline. And I think that when people come here, some of the feedback I get is how they enjoy how many family-friendly, safe communities and suburbs there are in the Denver metro area. So if you look statistically, certainly there are going to be some hot spots, some areas where more crime is reported, where people are going to take a closer look at where they're living. But there are also dozens of communities, mini suburbs around the Denver area where crime is well below the national average, and where the feedback I get from clients, from friends, from colleagues, from people I care about, heck, family members, is that they enjoy the fact that they can live there in peace. They enjoy the fact that if they have a significant other, kids or dogs, that they can be out and about walking all times of day, and that they can really enjoy the community. So that's a huge perk for people moving here, where they want to be in a community where they feel like they're a part of something, they feel safe, and they feel like they can raise their kids in a great community. And that's not to say, obviously, that having kids is a requirement of living in a good community. We have people who live by themselves, people who live with roommates. Regardless of your living situation, the idea of being safe and comfortable is a very important thing. And that feedback of knowing that people have come here and found these communities that they really enjoy is important to me, and I'd imagine certainly important to you. Now, of course, we're talking about Denver, Colorado, and the metro area and the Front Range, and you can't talk about Denver without bringing up the Rocky Mountains. They're pretty obvious, and anyone who moves here or visits here without at least noticing these massive mountains to the west of Denver, I don't know what to tell you. So, coincidentally, looking at statistics, about 40% of Denver residents report that they enjoy outdoor activities. Now, I am going to take from that, I'm gonna surmise, and I may be wrong here, I believe that is 40% of people who say that they actively take part in the mountains, that they like getting up to hiking and biking, because I am very certain, based on, heck, my own neighborhoods, that more than 40% of people just get outdoors for some activity. But 40% of people enjoying the mountains, getting up there. And I've had enough conversations with people moving here to know that some folks are going to find the mountains as a crucial aspect of why they are moving to Colorado. That is why they're coming here. Denver's all well and good. Maybe they don't even want to be in Denver. They want to be in another town. But the mountains are a key component. Now, of those 40% who claim that they really enjoy the mountains, again, that's a really weak percentage, but we're just going to roll with it. About 1 in 4 take part in annual ski tickets. You'll have a lot of people who buy national park passes. So certainly, if you're moving to Denver, you're moving anywhere, as far south as Colorado Springs down into Pueblo, you're going up to Fort Collins. Anything along the Front Range and just slightly east of basically I-25, you're going to have pretty quick access to getting over to the mountains. Now, for the folks who don't really care about the mountains, Kansas is cheaper, but I digress. And as I mentioned, the access to how many national parks and just how many great outdoor activities. One of the things, and natives of Colorado, we like talking about this, is how often we take for granted how quickly we can get to some of these amazing venues, some of these amazing places, not just ski resorts, but these great towns, these great national parks, these amazing hikes, within a couple hours, a few hours drive of Denver, if not less, where we have people who fly here all the time, and they're coming, from all over the country, having to fly into Denver, rent a car, go through all that process just to get to a Breckenridge, a Vail, an Aspen, a Telluride, heck, an Estes Park, and we have it right there. We can get to Estes Park in an hour. And it's not just the outdoor activities of the mountains, as I mentioned that percentage earlier. In a recent survey, about 50% of people just talked about how much they enjoy getting out in their local communities, getting out to, whether you're talking about the Flatirons up in Boulder or quick hikes, Roxborough Park down in Littleton. Here in Lakewood, where I live, we always say 100 parks. There are 99 parks, including a couple massive, William Hayden Park, or Green Mountain, as we call it, filled with trails where I can go mountain biking, I can go trail running, I can just walk around with the dogs, whatever I want. There's the occasional rattlesnake up there, so if you're around Green Mountain, just keep an eye out for those rattlers. But, just so many reasons to get outdoors and really enjoy yourself here in Denver. So when people think about, well, if I move to Denver, do I have to get to the mountains all the time? Is that really what I have to do to get enjoyment? No, you'll have guaranteed in every area of Denver. This is a city that really thinks about, it's a state that really thinks about open space and parks and just different walkways and dog parks and just different things that encourage you to get outside. It's a huge component of who we are and genuinely how we live. And this is coming from a guy who grew up here, but I was not an outdoorsman by any means. And I'm not necessarily, out camping every weekend now. But when I moved back to Denver, you couldn't pay me to hike. I prayed for rain every time somebody said they would hike. But now, once you get the feel of it, just being outside and enjoying all the amenities that Colorado has, some of the amazing parks, even local, like Sloan's Lake Park, Wash Park, City Park, Cheeseman Park, all the parks. So many great places to go and visit and just enjoy this beautiful state that we live in. And while we're talking about this beautiful state and getting outdoors, let's also talk about winters, because people who don't know any better, they have this idea that Denver is just like this frozen tundra. And it's funny, growing up here, if you asked me, I would say, yeah, Denver's really cold and it's snowy, because when you're a kid, everything gets jumbled up. And yeah, in 1987, we had a pretty big blizzard. I was 9, what do I know? But overall, Denver winters are pretty mild. Skies remain blue for a vast majority of time, which any of you who have lived in, say, the Seattle or Portland area out west, if you've lived in the Midwest, I lived in Ohio for a handful of years, it just turns gray like late September and stays that way until March or April. You don't get that here. A lot of sun. Yes, does it snow? Sure does. Does it melt after a handful of days? For the most part, it does. I will throw in, as every realtor and lender has to do, that you should look for a home with a south-facing driveway. Just gotta throw that out there because the sun hits your driveway and melts it. I have a north-facing driveway. I grew up here. I'm either a moron or I just really liked my house. Either way, it worked out. So when we talk about these winters, I think of the humorous things. People who live here tend to think that the winters are not as bad as they thought, And granted, this could be the winter. We're going into the winter of 2024. This could be the one where we just get piled with snow, but it hasn't happened in multiple years. They're actually surprised at how hot the summers are. Now, Denver's pretty dry. We're a high plains desert, so not a lot of humidity, but we will routinely have summer days where the weather just hangs out in the mid 90s, might touch 100 here and there, but mainly like mid to low 90s. Whereas in the wintertime, maybe a week where we get into the single digits for temperatures, but for the most part, pretty mild. So another key piece of Denver is the culture and arts scene. And, Denver has always had its theaters and its art museum and its science and, nature and science museum and all these different venues. But you really look at the growth. You look at, our staples, the Museum of Nature and Science, our art museum, Red Rocks. But within that, you have so many different small music venues. And I say small, all varying size. Summit Music Hall, Ogden, Bluebird, Larimer, places where there might be 50, 60 people listening to a concert. There might be thousands. You have art galleries all over the place. You have a lot of street art. It even comes out in the food, which we'll get into. There's just been a really awesome melting pot effect happening in Denver. Now, is it as diverse maybe a community as a Miami, a New York, a Chicago? No, not yet. It's building. But you have more and more people moving here, different cultures really coming together. And seeing that and seeing all of the different things that we enjoy as far as culture and art blending has been a beautiful bit of progress, in my humble opinion, over the last 10, 15, 20 years here in Denver. And I have to admit, this is something that maybe I just didn't pay enough attention to growing up, or maybe I didn't pay enough attention to it until I started making these videos. But the amount of different community festivities that are occurring, here in Lakewood, we have a couple. We actually have one coming up this weekend, the Cider Fest. But these different culture events up in Arvada, Parker has a ton of them, Littleton. And I think that more and more of these suburban communities and neighborhoods are realizing we need to create reasons for people to get out and about and meet each other and enjoy our communities. And so seeing some of these, some of this culture, some of these festivities, some of these events come together really, really warms the heart. I don't know how cheesy I say that's warming the heart, but it genuinely did. My heart is warmed. Plus, this weekend with the Cider Fest, you get cider, you get the huge turkey bones where I feel like I'm in a Game of Thrones episode, only I'm not getting killed because everybody died on that show, but it's pretty awesome. Next, let's talk about educational opportunities. If you look at overall school ratings throughout the Denver metro area and heck, go Colorado wide, overall schools in Colorado get pretty good rankings. Now that's going to be based on, regions rather than individual schools. So I always tell people, same thing with crime. If we're talking about crime or we're talking about education, you're going to want to look at specifics. If you're going to send your kid to this school, you want to make sure that school is in, a good place and highly rated as well. But overall, education, a strong suit. Within the Denver metro area, you also have access to some of the best universities there are. You've got DU, Denver University, we call it the University, I did it. The University of Denver, or DU, not Denver University, my apologies. You've got the Colorado School of Mines up in Golden, two very highly rated, prestigious schools within, 15, 20, the University of Denver is right in the heart. Colorado School of Mines is maybe 20, 25 minutes west of Denver, maybe 30 depending on traffic. You've got the University of Colorado up in Boulder. They also have a campus in Denver. You've got Colorado State University not far up in Fort Collins. A lot of schools in between. So whether you are starting, in preschools and kindergartens, elementary schools here locally, whether you are, growing up to be a big kid and going to some of these larger universities, the educational opportunities in Colorado and the Denver metro area are vast, and there's plenty to choose from. And we'll talk about some of the key components of earlier education. So a lot of the Denver metro area school systems will be based on district. And some of those districts are some among the highest rated in the state. So Douglas County, Cherry Creek School District, you will hear that quite a bit. Boulder Valley, another one. But Cherry Creek School District, for instance, covers certain parts of Aurora. So you might hear Aurora and Lakewood, they have these reputations. I've lived in Lakewood the vast majority of my life, other than the 12 years I was gone. But within Aurora, a lot of people will move to areas that they enjoy and that are covered by the Cherry Creek School District for that purpose. So many really great school districts that you're going to want to explore. Again, if you got some school-age kiddos that are going to benefit from that. And as I mentioned with the arts and culture, diversity is improving in Denver. From 2015 to 2024, we saw an increase from 30% to 35% of residents claiming to be a minority. And again, I think that you see that evolution within Denver. You see these different communities growing. You see just a different blend of lifestyles and entertainment and food and all of these things that blend. Among the benefits of this, and hopefully I don't get judged too harshly for this, the food has gotten a lot better in Denver. Now, people still knock Denver food. They do. And, again, are we, going to give an LA, a New York, a Miami a run for their money? No, we're not. But if you lived in Denver in 2010 to maybe 2015, and you're going to tell me with a straight face that the food scene in Denver has not improved dramatically since that time, I don't know what to tell you. You have a faulty memory when it comes to food. Food scene has improved. The culture, the arts, all of these things. I think a blend of the fact that diversity in Denver is moving in a positive direction. Now, I will admit, as an Italian, we still struggle with Italian food. It's getting a little better, but overall, just keep moving. And in defense of restaurants in Colorado, I should mention, at least in the Denver metro area, that Denver is one of the most expensive areas in the nation to operate a restaurant, which is kind of wild to me, but it's one of the biggest factors why we don't maybe have some of the restaurants that we'd like to see open. And listen, since we've covered some really important stuff, let's end kind of on a light note. We always talk about Denver metro area, extremely pet friendly, extremely dog friendly. You'll see people walking their dogs, bring their dogs to breweries, different shops, different places, dog parks everywhere. And you know what? I mean, I haven't necessarily been somewhere that's not dog friendly, where people are like, ugh, screw off, you have a dog. But Denver really wants you to get your dog out and about. You can see it. And a lot of off-leash areas, places with ponds, that's what my dogs love. My dog loves swimming and then coming up, shaking off, getting you all soaking wet. But just a lot of reasons to get out and about. And one of the magical benefits of that is as you get your dog out and about to these different things, you're meeting a lot of people. So it's been a great connector, one of my favorite things about Denver, and certainly something that I think that you would approve of. And certainly one of those things that I just encourage you, get a pup, get out to Denver, let's make things happen. And if you'd like my opinion on areas in Denver, or maybe even dogs, I'm here for it. And that's a perfect time to hit me up with a call, a text, an email. Know that I am always the person answering those phone calls, answering those texts, answering those emails. There, winning if you need me. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. That was one of the biggest reasons that people are moving to the Denver metro area here in Colorado. Until I see you next time, peace.